Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate everyone being out here this morning, and thank you for spending some time and being here to celebrate this great occasion with us. On behalf of the entire Samuels team, I'd like to welcome folks here. My remarks stated that thank you for being in this beautiful park. Unfortunately, because of the rain, we moved it indoors to the lobby, but equally beautiful here, and we're so proud to show off the renovation here and the work that that's been underway for many years. So I would also like to acknowledge our elected officials who are here with us this morning. Mayor Marty Walsh is here, Representative China Tyler, and Councilor Josh Zakum. So thank you for being here and spending time with us this morning. So this is a very significant moment for the Fenway neighborhood. We have dreamed for many years about creating an open space that acts as a gathering area for the community. And so as I stand here this morning with the rest of our team, it's really difficult to put into words how excited and pleased we are that after many years of ideas and dreaming that we're actually here this morning to dedicate and cut the ribbon for this beautiful park and also the opening of the historic renovation of this building. I'd like to introduce Steve Samuels to talk about the dream and the vision of this park and the reimagination of this historic building. I can tell you, working side by side with Steve for almost 20 years, that Steve is truly a visionary leader, that Steve's passion and perspective is so incredibly refreshing, and his pride in challenging and empowering those around him, all of us, to think big and do more is really incredible. So I'm really proud to introduce Steve Samuels this morning.
Peter, thank you for your kind words. I think what he was really trying to say is I'm annoying. We have been working together for an awfully long time. Peter started in the Fenway with us in 1999, I think. It's been an awful long time. And our whole company had a huge hand in all of this, but I want to single Peter out because we call him Mr. Fenway for those of you who have been in the neighborhood. Peter has been the guy who has been at every community meeting, at every club meeting, at every event. He's gotten to know everybody in this community on such an intimate level. His passion for Fenway and everything about Fenway is immeasurable. And without that passion, Peter, we never would have been here. And so I just want to have a special thanks to Peter. So can we give him a hand? I don't want to single too many people out, but I would like also to mention that I just want to say for a moment that David Manfredi from Elkis Manfredi Architects has also been our longtime partner in everything we're doing in the Fenway. We've done 9 projects, I think, together, from the original, hey, let's build a supermarket, to, oh my God, look what we could do here. And it's just been an incredible process of dreaming and trying to fit things into places and working with the community. And without David's creative energy, this neighborhood would not have erupted and become this great place. So thanks to David Manfredi as well. So we've had the privilege to spend 20 years executing a vision which was ironically born out of conflict and morphed into a desire for a better place. For those of you around this neighborhood 20 years ago, our involvement started with the Red Sox thinking about building a new park just to the west of the existing Fenway Park. And it brought up a lot of anxiety, and it brought a lot of community groups up to talk about living with a ballpark and what does that mean, and how it's been for the last 100 years. And what came out of that was this desire to have something more, to have a main street, to have a central place where the neighborhood had a spine and a soul. And here we are 20 years later. Out of all that anxiety and conflict, the Red Sox have done a beautiful job of renovating that park and making the jewel of a ballpark that it is. And we sort of picked up the torch to do all the other things about making this a 24/7 neighborhood. And so that was, it was really important, and it was truly a partnership with the community. All the community groups had a hand in essentially designing what Fenway would be. We literally asked over and over again, what do you want to see here? Are you okay with the heights, the massing? Do you understand the traffic? It truly has been a remarkable partnership. And while it's not complete, Fenway to me finally feels whole. It feels like it's achieved this elusive balance between old and new, shiny and scuffed, well-off, middle class, not so well-off folks live here, younger, older, funky, historic. There's a lot of new buildings, but there's a tremendous nod to the history of the neighborhood. It's a tourist destination, yet the most important thing is it feels like a home. Everybody who comes here, works here, or lives here feels like there's a sense of place, and it's comfortable, and it's safe, and everybody calls it their own. And for that, I'm incredibly proud. And so it's really been a team effort. Which brings me to this building, and why is this building significant? Why does it matter? Well, first off, it's been here 100 years. If you think about this neighborhood 100 years ago, there were two big things here, Fenway Park and this beast of a building. This was a Sears distribution center built in 1928. This was built when Sears was the Amazon of their day. This was built when Sears was selling everything to everybody and anything. They sold homes, they sold underwear, they sold toys, they sold tools. It was all that catalog, which some of you may or may not have seen, and some of them are actually displayed upstairs with some of the old archival items that were sold in that catalog. But Sears was the captain of industry. They called them the cathedrals of commerce. And so that's what this building was about. But invariably and inevitably, things began to change as Sears became less and less significant. This building and this property fell on darker times. There were years of decline, many years of disrepair and vacancy. About 20 years ago, it made its first iteration of a new life, and it was renovated to be a building that housed Blue Cross and Blue Shield and some suburban retail on the first floor that was really suburban automobile driven. But the interesting part of that, and while it was functional and it was a productive building and people were working here, it was fabulous for that reason. But we felt that the thing that was missing the most is it was still a barrier. It was not a place where the community could come in and out of. You walked around it. If you went to the T, you went on the outside of it to get to the neighborhood. Nobody who shopped in here walked inside the office building. None of the office building employees felt part of the neighborhood. And so we felt that it was our responsibility to make this thing entirely different than it has been. We hope that this becomes the new center of gravity for Fenway, for Brookline, for Back Bay, for the neighborhoods on either side, for the LMA. We've opened up this massive interior. We cut a whole floor out of this section here and all the way down through Time Out Markets to basically expose all the office space and the atriums that are going on upstairs. We want this to feel connected. We want the neighborhood to feel like they can come through here, both east and west and north and south, and not walk around it. And so its days as a barrier are over. And we hope that once again it will become a place for innovators and dreamers and overachievers, people who want to make things happen. It's occupied upstairs by tech companies, life science companies, world-class medical institutions. Most of you know Children's Hospital is here, Harvard School of Public Health, Harvard Medical School. We had an incubator space on the top floor for 2 years while we were under construction called Hatch, which was designed to take very young companies that had that could afford very little occupancy cost and grow them. We had 2 fantastic success stories that came out of that. A company called Whoop, which is in another one of our buildings now, which is a wearable device. And of course, Toast, which Started with 20 or 30 people and is now 300 or 400 people. 1,000 people at Toast, which was curated in this building. So we feel very fortunate this building has a life again. And on the first floor, in about 2 weeks, we're about to open a place called Time Out Markets. They're opening later this month in 4 cities in the U.S., Miami, Chicago, Brooklyn, and quite fortunately, Boston. They're originally from London, and their first market was in Lisbon. They're an international company that essentially focuses on curating the best of the best food experiences from local purveyors of food. Chefs like Tim and Nancy Cushman, and Michael Schlau, and Alex Sains, and Vincent Turco, and Dominic and Heather Costa, just to name a few, are going to be in here. I think there's going to be 16 great chefs in here. And of course, out front, we have Trillium, our local craft beer sensation, which is going to take the building out in front of the park. So the building hopefully has become a magnet and a center for Fenway's activities. The last piece of the puzzle is the park. And it's probably the most important piece because it's the connective element not only from Fenway to LMA, but also to the Emerald Necklace. A little bit of history, believe it or not, in the 1960s, Sears was so powerful, they pushed the city to pave over a piece of the Emerald Necklace behind us. And actually it happened, which is inconceivable if you think about paving over and culverting the muddy river and a public park today. But it actually happened. And sadly, for the last 50 years, that parking lot was the only broken piece of the Emerald Necklace conceived by Frederick Law Olmsted that goes all the way from Jamaica Plain and the pond all the way to the Commons. Just about 2 years ago, the Emerald Necklace Conservancy, the state, the city, and the feds finally daylighted the muddy river again. I don't know if Michael Dukakis is here. Is he here? Nope. But he had a strong hand for many, many years in helping to get that piece of the park replaced. And so we thought, well, it's fantastic to have the Emerald Necklace connected again, and it will become a place where Bostonians recreate. But we realized we had this incredible amount of frontage on this park, and we thought if we could activate the front of our building with activities, lifestyle, skating, tons of food, and a place where families can convene, then it will be a great stop along the Emerald Necklace. And that's why we put this park together. It should connect the muddy river in a way that has not been significant for this neighborhood before. And so lastly, we have a fantastic artist named Nicole Eisenman who essentially chose Boston and this park for her new sculptures, and she's going to do an opening with us in a couple of weeks. She's a world-class artist. She is as hot as you can be in the art world and is featured in many of the world's best museums, including the Whitney. And those sculptures are going to be featured in our park in a couple of weeks. And so we hope that we have something for everybody here. We think between the park and the building, we hope to change the center of gravity of what's been happening in the Fenway, connect Longwood, Brookline, Back Bay. And so that's our strength. It's about balance here in the Fenway. And I think that this will be a critical piece in maintaining that balance. So enough of my shameless promotion. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, who's a man who obviously needs no introduction. He's been an ardent supporter of the rebirth of the Fenway. He's been a phenomenal partner to work with throughout the development community. He supports the arts. He's changing our school systems. He's helping the homeless. He's attacking substance abuse. He's handling affordable housing, all the while presiding over Boston's ascension into this incredible world-class city. I can't imagine the demands that our mayor faces every day trying to keep control of everything. But the job creation, the housing starts are all at record levels here. And so I'd like to introduce our wonderful mayor, Mayor Marty Walsh.
Thank you very much, Steve. And there was a lot of what Steve said is in my remarks too, and I'll repeat a little bit of it. But I just want to thank Steve. I was talking to Josh a second ago, and when you have somebody who's a developer in a city like Boston, oftentimes there's conflict between the community and the developer, and there's always trying to push here and there. But Steve has gotten so many awards from different civic associations in different places, and Josh was just saying, it's like when you have somebody like that that understands and cares about the community and puts the community first, that makes a huge difference in developing and doing what's going on here. So I want to congratulate Steve and what's happening here, but also what he does in the city of Boston. And philanthropically, he doesn't brag about this, but a lot of times an organization will call me and they'll be looking for some money for an event, and I'll always make a call, and he never says no. So I want to thank you, Steve, for what you do. You do great work. I want to thank Peter and everyone at Samuels and Associates. I know there's a lot of folks here that work for Samuels. Thank you for all your work. You do some great stuff in the city of Boston, and I want to say thank you as well to City Councilor Josh Aiken, who's going to speak after me, and Representative China Tyler. You know, we work as a partnership here, and it's about how do we continue to move neighborhoods forward and how do we move our city forward. So I want to thank them as well for being here today. As Steve said, there's a lot of history on this site. And this is the old Sears Roebuck building, and what we're having here today is beginning a new chapter. And I forgot about the catalogs until you said it. I remember being a kid, and you know, we'd get the catalog and we'd circle in all the toys on the toy page what we wanted, and I forgot that's how we shopped years ago. Like that was the Amazon of the day. Probably easier, because at least you'd circle it. You couldn't hit a button and it automatically happens. You'd have to circle and then convince your mother that we want to buy this. Now it's like you hit a button and the packet shows up and the bill's there. But anyway, I want to just, it's important that we understand the history. And it's also important that we, as we think about our city, as we're going through this incredible growth and transformation in our city, that we still have the history of our city, and understanding that history and knowing what came before, and having a building like this as a gateway into the neighborhood, it really is important. And I want to thank again the community, because over the years I'm sure there were many proposals that were to maybe do something different here, and the community steadfast with people to keep this here. So it's excellent. It's exciting to see in the neighborhood. My remarks said this beautiful park is for everyone. The park outside, it's a rainy day. It's going to be green, I'll tell you that, in the city of Boston this year. But having public open space is key as well for so many different reasons. I know Steve talked about the arts and gathering spaces, but also for the environment, and really having opportunities. When you think about just this, if you'd call it a block and a half area, has been transformed, completely transformed, back to nature. Opening up the Muddy River, having light back on the Muddy River, having green space, having plantings, having green space out front here, not having a hot top parking lot, really is going to transform the community. So it does help for gathering spaces, and it helps for maybe having a couple of parties out there, but it also does help the environment, something that we have to continue to do. And we might not think it makes a big difference, but when you think about what's happening in Boston, the more we can do for greening of our city, the more planting of trees. We talk about tree planting, but the more greening of our city we can do, the more it's going to help us get to our goals of carbon reductions and emissions and all of the things that we plan on doing. So again, it's amazing. And having arts and culture part of this neighborhood, I would regard Fenway as one of the arts and culture neighborhoods in the country, one of the best in the country, because everyone talks about it. People talk about it. So it's not just simply about the design of a building. It's also understanding and appreciating art and public art. And again, I want to thank Steve for what's happening here, and I look forward to seeing Nicole's work here in Boston. You know, and the reason why I'm saying this, because Steve talked about Trillium. They're expanding to Fenway. They're having a success at their tap room on the Seaport, in the Summer Beer Garden, the Greenway. Things that is another area of bringing people together. Boston is a city of millennials, and Boston is a city of older Bostonians. When you think about our population, I think at one point, I'm not sure where we're ranked today, but I think we're the second, or maybe either first or second youngest per capita city in America. Years ago, people would come to Boston and get educated, and then they'd go to New York or San Francisco. Today, if you ask young people that are here, some grew up here, a lot from Ohio, from New York, from San Francisco. People are staying here in our city, and that's exciting to see that growth. We have international students that come to our city that want to stay here in our city as well, and we have all kinds of different people. So having opportunities for young people, and it's not just for young people, older people can go to the beer garden too if you want, but it really is about changing kind of the culture of our city, keeping people and keeping them invested in our city, and we're excited about that. The stores that are coming, Time Out Market, understanding that we're one of 4 cities in the world outside of where they began to really see an opportunity to come here. That's exciting as well. Again, we continue to grow our city and give more opportunities for people. Healthcare, the healthcare that goes on here. When you think about the site, retail, startups, healthcare, and all of the other industries that are here, it really is amazing that in an area you have so many different industries doing so many incredible things for people, and that's exciting here in the city of Boston. 401 Park represents a lot of what we want to achieve in the city of Boston. More welcoming, walkable neighborhoods, access and better access to parks and green space, access to public art and arts, better connections to jobs and opportunities to give people an opportunity. This project also includes a new pedestrian and bike path, something that as we continue to change the way we do transportation, and I'm going to talk at the end about transportation just briefly, but thinking about those different connections that are being made. Road safety improvements and bike accommodations that are happening here, new trees and landscaping. It will support the Audubon Circle with a $100,000 investment in projects and programming in the Back Bay Fens, $150 million for the Emerald Necklace Conservancy. And as we think about the next step that we're doing with renovating Franklin Park, and we also putting some money into completing the Emerald Necklace on the other side of the city, really is important as we piece all of this together. The benefits of this project certainly go far beyond this neighborhood as well. This project generates about $3 million for affordable housing. As Steve mentioned, in the last 5 years, no city in America has built more affordable housing than the city of Boston. Well, actually, let me correct that because I know the press here. In the last 5 years, no time in Boston's history have we built more affordable housing than this period in time. And we are one of the leaders in the country when it comes to affordable housing. The $700,000 from this project go on to job training throughout the city of Boston. So this project, if you talk about, we throw the word transformative around a lot, but if you truly are thinking of a transformative project that touches everybody, or most people in the city of Boston, it's this project. It works with the neighborhood, it takes care of jobs, it creates opportunity, potentially cures people, invest in housing, invest in job training, really a complete project. So again, I want to thank everyone who was part of putting this project together over the last bunch of years, and it's going to be exciting to see this project move forward. Lastly, just a separate piece I'm going to bring up to the councilor. The last 2 days I spent down in Washington with the governor to talk about infrastructure, and there's been a little bit covered about it, but as we think about our neighborhoods and as we think about growth of Boston, probably the 2 biggest concerns I hear every day is traffic and housing. Those are the 2 big issues. And those are 2 areas where the city has made big investments, and in some cases historic investments, and the state has made big investments. And the one area that we have not had a partner in for the last long time is the federal government. And yesterday and the day before, we met with congressional delegations from around the country, and congressional delegations from Massachusetts. We met with Richie Neal, the chairman of Ways and Means. We met with Senate leaders and House leaders. And right now they're talking about a $1.5 to $2 trillion package of infrastructure improvements that are going to be sent down through cities and towns and states throughout the United States of America. And one of the things that they spoke about was how do we pay for it? And this isn't meant to be in this conversation today, but I am asking all of you to contact the senators and the congressional delegation here in Massachusetts. And if you don't live in Boston, you live somewhere else in the country, contact your delegation there, because it is so important that we get a true bridge and road infrastructure bill through the United States Congress this year so that we can continue to make investments in the city and in the state and across the country that we need. Because if we don't get those investments now, we're only going to fall farther behind. As we think about opportunities like this, where people invest a lot of time and money, community invests a lot of resources and time out of their time, And to see these projects built and to only figure out that we can't figure out the traffic problems because we don't have enough revenue, that's going to hurt not just the Boston economy, but it's going to hurt the national economy. So I would just ask you, as you go on your day, when you see your congressional folks, put a bug in their ear. This needs to be a priority, because I don't think there's any other issue the United States Congress and Senate can agree on that you won't have a brawl on. But the fact that infrastructure is something that Nancy Pelosi, the President, and Chuck Schumer are all on the same page as far as doing a bill, moving it forward. They'll figure out how to pay it. That's a good start. So we need to make sure that we get this bill through Congress. And that bill will indirectly help this project. If you work here, or if you live in this neighborhood, will definitely help your neighborhood with allowing us the opportunity to access funds that will help us move our economy forward. Again, congratulations to your whole team, Steve, on this milestone. And now I have the great honor of introducing a city council who is very hands-on, particularly when it comes to development in his district. He's a friend. He's somebody I've worked very closely with since I've been mayor, and that's City Councilor Josh Dagum.
Well, thank you, Mayor. It's been a privilege. We were elected on the same day in 2013, started these jobs together in 2014, and working with the mayor in neighborhoods across the district, across the city, and like the Fenway, to make sure that this growth that he's overseeing that's happening in the city of Boston, this development boom, the job boom, the fact that people are staying here in greater numbers than they have ever in the past, I think is a testament to the city's leadership, to the business community, to the civic community that we have here. And nowhere is that embodied more, I think, than in the Fenway. And Steve, to you and Peter and your team, the mayor wasn't making that up. When I go to other neighborhoods and I talk to other people, we use the relationship between your team at Samuels, the Fenway Civic Association, neighbors, the BPDA, the mayor's office, my office, our representatives in the legislature, about building projects like this that make sense as a development opportunity, that help this city, that brings so much to the community. From the park outside, which it's nice we brought a little bit of a park in here, so the rain didn't get us completely, to this food hall that is having nationally known chefs and entrepreneurs and newer locally based startups also, giving people an opportunity to do that and to really build a sense of community and to continue what you've done in this neighborhood over the last 20 years. And I've been privileged to be the city councilor here for almost 6 years now. And we've had the opportunity to work on projects like this one. I remember about 2 years ago, talked about the park and how we were going to get that happening and beyond that. But the changes that have happened in this neighborhood in partnership with the community, through the rezoning process that was about 15 years ago that you all participated in, that people spent hours, sometimes months and years, I think, of dedication on that to set up a blueprint for how this neighborhood can grow and thrive and continue to be a community is so important. So I'm not going to stand up here and filibuster you guys. I just said I've been in office almost 6 years. I can talk a while, so I'm not going to do that today. But it's just so exciting to be here, to share the stage with my friend Mayor Walsh, with Representative Tyler, who's going to come up in a second, and with you and your team. And I look forward to certainly the food hall. I'll be there. I'll be there a little bit, but more and more celebrations to come. So with that, I want to turn it over to our Representative China Tyler, who the mayor was talking about. The millennials in the city. I know I'm a millennial, but she only just turned 30, so I was wondering if she even qualifies as a millennial here. Has been an incredible partner in the State House for this neighborhood. Representative China Tyler.
Good morning, everyone. Again, I'm Representative China Tyler, and I have the true honor to represent the Fenway community amongst many others on Beacon Hill at the Massachusetts State House. And I'd just like to congratulate Steve Samuels and the entire Samuels team for the opening of this wonderful facility. It's truly amazing. And I just want to let you know that I'm truly appreciative of your collaborative effort and spirits in transforming the Fenway neighborhood, and I look forward to a continued partnership in transforming the city of Boston. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you for being patient. I just want to wrap up. We can't go away without saying a few thank yous. Projects like this take many years. There's a lot of painstaking detail and work that goes into these projects. And I was trying to think of expressions that might be applicable, and you can talk about Rome wasn't built in a day, or it takes a village to complete something. And those and many others apply here because it was truly a team effort. And I'm going to give a shout out to a few. Can't get everyone, so please don't feel offended. But I'm going to start with just thanking our team from senior leadership, Joel and Tom and Leslie and Roger, helping to make sure that the financing and legal and management side of the project was moving smoothly. To a special call out to Abe Menzin, who has spent, Abe reminded me this morning that this has been 8 years in the making, 6 years of planning, talking about it, dreaming, planning, and drawing plans, and 2 years of painstaking construction that literally happened day and night. Because the building is fully occupied, we had shifts working overnight, during the day, et cetera. So Abe, thank you for your leadership efforts and your team, along with Chris Kane and Kevin Luxkow on construction. I would also like to thank our partner, JP Morgan. Eric Grabowski is here. Without Eric and JP Morgan's support, this wouldn't be possible. They appreciate their faith and vision in the city, in the Fenway in particular. They've been a great partner for over 15 years with everything we've been doing. So thank you, Eric. David Manfredi, and I know Steve singled David out. I've been working with David for 25 years, even before I joined Steve, and so we have a very special bond, and we don't always agree with things, but we can always come to some resolution. So David, thank you for your inspiration, and the entire Elkus Manfredi team. Too numerous to mention, but thank you. You guys worked, again, day and night to make sure that all the details were perfect. And Elizabeth, with her vision on the interior. And what's interesting, walking in this morning, we all remarked that we've been looking at this rendering for 2 years now, and today was the first day we actually got to see it in real life, and it looks identical down to the smallest details, like the rendering. So thank you to David and Elizabeth and the entire Elkus Manfredi team. The park. Obviously, we're not able to stand in the park this morning, but please go out, walk around, enjoy it. We've had an incredible team, the LeBlanc Jones team, Keith LeBlanc and Chris Regan and Doug and the others, again, worked tirelessly, and we thought about all the details of how this park will get used. And Suffolk construction, none of the dreaming is possible if we can't implement it. So Suffolk construction team, again, thank you, Jeff, Chris, Jim, and the rest of the team. Dozens and dozens of folks from the Suffolk team who are involved in this project. I'd also like to give a special thanks to the community, to Fenway Civic and Audubon and CDC, everyone who has inspired us to do more and has trusted us with their neighborhood. We really appreciate your support, and we have a very special bond, and we can't wait till we're hanging out in the park together. Additionally, from the BPDA team from the city, again, instrumental in making sure that all of the permits and approvals and entitlement process. So thank you to the entire BPDA staff. And one other special thank you to the occupants of this building. There are over 3,000 people that work in this building and had to put up with construction over the last 2 years. So we thank you, and I know there are representatives from Children's and Toast and Harvard Medical School and School of Public Health here. So truly thank you for your patience, and we think that the pain and aggravation was worth it in the end. So the Newmark team is also here. They've been part of helping us bring the great tenants here. And Antonio Bertone, who has helped us on the visioning and also bringing Time Out Market to Boston. So just one last remark before I close. So we planted over 100 trees and over 4,000 plants out in this park. And that's interesting. But there's one special tree out there that I wanted to call out. And again, we're not outside, so we can't take a look at it, but at the corner of Park Drive and Brookline Ave, there's a tree there. There's an existing tree that stood there. And the original plans called for us to cut the tree down and build the new park around it. And boy, did I get an earful from my friend Freddie. So what I was going to say that Freddie tried to convince me, but she actually took me by the ear and dragged me out there and said, how can you cut down this special tree? And indeed, we redesigned the park to save the catalpa tree. I didn't know what a catalpa tree was, but I learned it's a 60-year-old catalpa tree, and it has no leaves today. It's a late bloomer, but it'll be in full bloom in a few weeks. So Freddie, thank you for your inspiration. So thank you all for coming out today. As a token of our appreciation and something to remind you of the event today, we have some greenery, succulent plants in the rear that are set up. Please help yourself and take one home and remind you of this event today. And we will just have a ceremonial ribbon cutting here. And any questions, we'll be around, happy to walk folks around. Thank you for coming out this morning.